Hi there. My name is Jeremy. This is Red Beans Recording, and today I want to talk to you about one of the sort of simplest but most powerful techniques that I know in Eurorack to get really, really interesting control over your patterns and creativity over your patches, especially for long playing times like full sets and stuff like that. And that is separating your note on events or your gates and triggers from your pitch events, which are the things that determine when a note changes pitch or your control voltage for pitch. One of the reasons that Eurorack is so powerful is that it steps away from the contrivance that MIDI has, where usually it's one note for one note on event, and you have a few different modes, which I'll explain, that you can sort of like use with... Thanks, dog. We have just a ton of power to create streams of different rhythms and different note values and manipulate those on the fly to get just really, really unprecedented control and creativity with our patterns in Eurorack. So that's what this video is about. If you don't quite understand, don't worry, I'll try to explain it all. I've been meaning to make this video for a long time, so hopefully all the information lands well. And yeah, let's get into it. So when you play a traditional instrument like a piano, you hit a note and something happens. Sometimes you can hold down that note and something will happen longer. This is a note on and note off event. And you can see it here in MIDI aux. It shows us how long we're holding down the key for and when we press it. So this is a very traditional sort of acoustic polyphonic instrument like the piano. A cello can be played in a lot of different ways, including legato, where notes are slid from one to another. And this leads to a different type of experience with the lines that are fluid and kind of glidey. These strings can play a rhythm that is different from their notes changing. We take this for granted when it comes to playing acoustic instruments. They just do this. We can just do this whenever we want. Here's an example of a simple polyphonic synthesizer where each note has its own articulation, meaning an envelope that controls its volume, and maybe it has a filter, and every single one of those notes, when you play it, it gets its envelope and filter settings discreetly. That's how synthesizers generally work. Polyphonic ones at least. Another way of playing is monophonically, where you can only play one note at once, and the envelope is re-triggered every single time you play a note. This is monophonic mode. Another kind of monophonic mode is legato, where instead of having the envelope re-triggered every single time you play a note, if you hold down a note and play another one, the envelope will continue through its cycle. This is very, very common for leads of various kinds, as you can hear here. So all of these we take for granted when it comes to MIDI, and in all of them, the note on event is usually tied to something like the sound happening or the envelope happening. It's not the case in modular. Here we have VCV Rec. We have a simple oscillator, and if I... there we go. It's free running, meaning it's happening all the time. I'm going to take this volt per octave, or our pitch, and put it right here. There we go. Now I'm going to play the keyboard, and I can play pitches, but it's still free running, so it's happening all the time. I'm going to take from this MIDI to CV converter the gate and put it into the scope so you can see what happens. Now look at this little up and down voltage in relation to me pressing the key note on, note off, and you'll see that they're related. If I put that into plates, now I can trigger this like a voice. And what we're doing right now is triggering plates' internal VCA, the thing that shapes its volume envelope. This could be considered a form of legato. I can change the note as long as I hold down another one and the envelope won't re-trigger. Here is an ADSR, or a 4-stage envelope. If I put this into the level input of our oscillator here, we now have a 4-stage volume shaping envelope, which is a really traditional sort of envelope that you will find in many, many synthesizers. It's what we were dealing with in Pigments earlier, and now I can shape the volume of this. This is a sequencer, and a clock. And what we're going to do here is start sequencing our oscillator. So we can create a sequence of either pitches and or gates, which will drive our envelope. So we just hooked up the gate. We'll put that into there. And I think we're going to draw some gates now. Let's go ahead and speed up the sequencer a bit. So every single time I put one of these down, we get a note on event into that envelope. And we're not changing our pitch right at the moment. I just wanted to demonstrate that this, triggers the envelope so we get a note on event. I can shape the envelope a little bit more, like that. Okay, I've drawn some voltages, and now we're going to send the output of this sequencer, the control voltage, into a quantizer through what's called an attenuator. This will just give us the ability to constrain the pitch values coming out. So this is going to go into our friend, and it's going to sound weird at first. Hey, get over there. It's going to sound a little weird at first, like a little chromatic, because I haven't picked the voltages I want. So now I will pick some notes in the quantizer to make this sound a little bit more musical, I guess. And yeah, let's do that real quick. And just the attenuator. There we go. Okay. So now you can see that we have another, again, legato mode sort of thing going on. There are note changes happening at the rate that the clock is pushing the sequencer forward, and our gate only happens now and then. Our note on only happens now and then. So we are changing notes in between when the envelope is being triggered. So this is a sort of a separation of gate and pitch, but mostly it's just sort of a legato mode. See how far we can go with it, right? I mean, this is cool on its own, honestly. All right, I'm going to get this little kick drum going here so we can kind of get a sense of rhythm as we go forward. Boop, boop, ba-doop, doop, doop, boop, ba-doop, boop, doop, boop. Yeah. Okay, this is a gate sequencer. This is where we start to separate our gates from our pitch events. I'm going to clock this from our same clock up there. And I'm going to go slow down our sequencer that's doing pitches really slow. So now it's every 4 beats, it's going to change pitches. But our gate sequencer down here can go at any rate we want it to. So now I can have 16th notes in terms of a rhythm, but I could have notes that are only changing each bar, which is a more musical relationship. And then you can go ahead and pick a rhythm, whatever you want to do here. And in modular, like in hardware Eurorack, your gate sequencer can change anytime you want. Like you can go in and program a new gate sequence anytime you want. I've added another voice here, and this will pull from all the same information, but have a different set of gates. And then a third oscillator finally, again, pulling from the same thing with one gate right there at the beginning and a different interpretation of the quantization. You can also play these attenuators here, which is a really, really fun way of messing with your sequence. I really like doing it with bass, which I'll do it in just a second. All right. So now when you mess with your bass like this, you can create what feels like a progression, which is really, really cool. Basses stay on the same note a lot of the times, but play a rhythm, a more complex rhythm, and that's what we have going on here. All right, cool. Well, that's what I wanted to show you in VCV-Rec. Let's go on over to the real modular and see what's happening. We have 4 voices at play here. Plots. Braids. Zephyr, and the Laquelic Iteratus Percedo. Zoopity-bop-boop-a-doo. They're all free running right now. First thing we have to do is get these into a VCA. This is going to be what we use to shape the volume via our envelopes like we did earlier. Done. Now, I have sliders. Isn't that great? Everybody loves a slider, right? There we go. Yes. Okay. I'm going to get this quantizer here, this Bard Quartet quantizer. I'm going to get these plugged into the 1 volt per octave of each of our voices. We will come back to this in just a bit, but now you can hear that I can start picking notes on here, and I will be able to change the pitches in those oscillators. So this is going to be a big part of our patch. All right, next step, let's get some envelope signals plugged into our VCA and test them with a little quick gate. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, So these are the main sequencers we'll be working with. I have 4 bricks rook on the left, I have the acid rain constellation in the center, and I have Metron on the right. When I press start on PAMs, you'll see that they all start and then reset. So these are our gate sequencers. I'm going to go ahead and get a kick drum from the Trinity here, just so again we can hear our rhythm as we start messing around. Oh yeah, what a beautiful kick drum. Okay, so this is 4 bricks rook on the left. It is a gate sequencer that you can actually play. So I'm going to record a short sequence into this. And remember, our oscillators are just free running right now. This is simply going to trigger the envelopes that will trigger the volume. All right, nice and clean up there. You ready to go? Let's go. Oh yeah. Okay, okay, okay. That's right, that's right. Why don't you record that, you muffin? Yeah. I'll quantize that real quick. Okay, so now we are triggering our 4 voices, and now we can mess with our pitches independently of this. I'm going to go ahead and feed a signal from the Acid Rain Maestro, which is a voltage sort of modulation thing, into each input of the quantizer. And this will give me the ability to control the speed and shape of voltage going into the quantizer to be quantized. And these are our little attenuators right there, those little navigators next to it. So now I'm going to pick some notes for each channel on the quantizer, and things are a little chaotic right now. There's a couple reasons for that. Don't worry, they'll get a lot smoother in a bit. Okay, now when I pick a time value and a shape value down here, yeah, our quantizer will react differently because it's getting different voltages. Now I've realized that I haven't clocked the Maestro. All right, let's get over there. There we go. Yes, much better. Okay, so now I can put in a voltage shape, so to speak, coming out of the Maestro and feed the quantizer whatever I want, completely independent of what we did on our gate sequencer. I can make it real slow, I can make it fast, I can make it complex, and I can adjust the attenuator to change the range of voltage going into the quantizer. You don't have to use a quanti for this, but it's just a really potent example of how this works. Okay. We've heard enough of 4 bricks rook. Let me move this over to a different gate sequencer, the Acid Rain Constellation, which is a sort of super Euclidean sequencer. So the way this works is you stack Euclidean patterns on top of each other. And here I just have a different control. I can make really long, complex sequences with ratcheting and permutation. I can do just so many different things I couldn't do on the 4 bricks rook, and this is going to lead to a much more complex situation. Yeah, like that. Now remember, our pitches are happening completely independent of this. I'm just dialing in the rhythm right now, which arguably is a huge, almost most important part of a track like this, is the rhythm. And there you go. I can now mess with the pitches individually, like that. But my gates will continue doing stuff. Oh, that's a little much. There, that's cool. Yeah. Let's add some effects. Okay? That's right. Gonna bob around. Anyways, I really, really like this. I think this is like one of the coolest ways, especially when you're approaching like generative patching, to get the most out of 2 different sequencers and your patch. Now you have like completely independent control over rhythmic density and melodic complexity. And especially if you're going to be like performing with a modular system, would be the way I would suggest approaching sequencing. It just gives you an enormous amount of control over the duration of a performance. Ooh, okay, what's this little baby? This is the Panching Panda Particles. It is a gate processor, meaning it's going to take gates and do fun things to them, like ratcheting and probability. It also has a hocketing thing, where it will take a signal and hocket it through the 4 gates there. So let's get one channel going and add a little bit of ratcheting to it. And again, same thing with our pitch earlier. Obviously, the Bard Quartet still plugged in doing that thing, right? So we can ratchet it. which is really cool, and we can CV modulate that ratchet. But if I use the knob in the upper right-hand corner, I will now have the system randomly choose a new output for the incoming gates, and all that processing still applies. So hugely algorithmically, permutationally mutation of my gate signal coming in with one input, which is really, really cool. Let me go ahead and clear this note mask so you can hear it a little bit simpler. And I'm going to go ahead and CV modulate. Yeah, the ratchet timing. That's what you're seeing on the top move around up there. I love those little tickly bits. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and jam for the rest of this video. Hook up some bass right here. I'm actually using the Squirt Hermod here as a MIDI to CV converter with the key step plugged into it because, and the OP1's there too. Because I love combining deterministic playing, like my bass line and my OP1 now, with this sort of generative gate processing stuff. It's the best of both worlds. So give this a try. Separate your gates and your notes. Do it for me. All right, I'm going to switch to a minor mode and I'm going to jam out. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording, and I hope you have a wonderful day.